Here's a bitter irony of modern life. The more you try to run from stress, the more relentlessly it hunts you down. The more you try to build walls to protect your mind, the more easily they crumble. But there is a secret, an unwritten rule passed down from the most powerful Roman emperors to the tech billionaires shaping our world today. They don't run from stress. They invite it in, like a guest. Why? In the next 15 minutes, I'm not just going to give you a few stress management tips. I'm going to decode the mental operating system that the most elite minds in history have used to turn pressure into power. This isn't self-help. It's a software update for your mind. First, we'll debunk a deadly misconception about stress that most of us believe. Then, we'll uncover the 3 core principles of the Stoic operating system that tech CEOs are secretly applying. And finally, I'll give you a practical tool you can use the moment this video ends to take back control of your own mind. So what is that deadly misconception? It's the belief that stress is the enemy, that it's something external that must be defeated, avoided, or conquered. We're taught to fight stress. But this is the trap, because when you declare war on stress, you are declaring war on your own deepest survival instincts. Picture this. Thousands of years ago, when our ancestors faced a tiger in the wild, their bodies instantly triggered an ancient alarm system, the fight-or-flight response. The heart beats faster, blood rushes to the muscles, the senses sharpen. A hormone called cortisol floods the system, providing an emergency surge of energy to deal with a life-threatening predator. This system was perfect. It saved our species. But here's the problem. In the modern world, your body can't tell the difference between a tiger and an urgent email from your boss, between a real threat and a social media notification. That alarm system is now being triggered constantly. Not once a week, but dozens, maybe hundreds of times a day. That stream of cortisol, the emergency hormone, now becomes a corrosive flood, flowing non-stop through our veins. And science has shown the devastating consequences. Chronic high levels of cortisol literally corrode and shrink the neurons in 2 of your most critical brain regions, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and focus, and the hippocampus, the center of your memory. You can't focus, you're forgetful, you feel exhausted. It's not your fault. It's the biological result of a relentless assault. So when you try to fight stress, you're asking your body to stop doing the very thing it was programmed to do. You're creating a new anxiety loop. You get stressed about being stressed. It's a battle you are destined to lose. This isn't a theoretical problem. It has a name, burnout. And it happens to the best of us. Take Tim Ferriss. Before he became an icon of productivity and a best-selling author, he was the model of a Silicon Valley tech CEO. He worked 80-hour weeks, built a company from scratch, and lived on a razor's edge of pressure. And then his system crashed. He fell into a period he later described as being filled with depression and suicidal thoughts. He felt completely burned out. The productivity tools that had built his empire were now useless. He tried everything. He sold his company, traveled the world, tried to work less. He changed everything on the outside. But nothing worked, because he realized the problem wasn't on the outside. The feeling of emptiness and pressure followed him everywhere, from the beaches of Argentina to the bustling cities of Europe. He realized he was fixing the wrong problem. The problem wasn't his environment. It was how his mind processed that environment. It was only when, in a moment of desperation, he turned to the writings of Seneca, a Stoic philosopher, that he found his answer. He realized it wasn't his circumstances that needed to change. It was his entire mental operating system. And the mental operating system that Tim Ferriss and countless other CEOs and leaders found in those ancient texts is built on a single powerful shift in perception. a simple truth that changes everything. That shift is this. Stop trying to control the world outside and instead master the world within. The Stoics call this the dichotomy of control. It's a core principle that divides everything in the universe into two categories: things you can control and things you can't. The weather, the stock market, what other people think of you, whether your boss gets angry. These are all outside of your control. But there is one kingdom where you are the absolute sovereign. Your own thoughts, your own interpretations, and your own choices. This is the fundamental shift. From a victim of circumstance, you become the architect of your response. Over 2,000 years ago, the philosopher Epictetus captured this truth in an immortal line. It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. Pause and think about that. The stress isn't in your boss's email. The stress is in the story you tell yourself about that email. If I don't reply immediately, I'll be fired. My career will be over. The Stoics teach us to hit the pause button between an event and our reaction to it. And in that pause, we find our power. Another great Stoic, Seneca, who was an advisor to a Roman emperor, went deeper into the source of this suffering. He wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. How many times have you lost sleep over a presentation that hadn't even happened? How much energy have you burned on worst-case scenarios that never came true? We are living in a constant battle with ghosts of our own mind's creation." The Stoic operating system helps us uninstall these anxiety-producing programs and focus on what is actually happening right here, right now. Perhaps there is no more powerful testament to this philosophy than the life of the man who wrote it. Epictetus was a slave in Rome. He owned nothing, not even his own body. His master, a cruel man, deliberately broke his leg for sport. Epictetus endured pain and injustice on a level most of us can't even imagine. And yet, he found absolute freedom. He realized that while men could chain his body, beat him, even take his life, there was one thing they could never touch: his mind, and his ability to choose his attitude in the face of adversity. And in that inner citadel, he was a king. He found an unshakable peace, not by changing the world, but by mastering himself. Now, many people hear this and think, so I'm supposed to become emotionless, cold, and apathetic to everything? Absolutely not. That is the most common and dangerous misconception about Stoicism. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about not letting emotion rule you. It doesn't teach you to stop caring. It teaches you to care about the right things. Imagine your mental energy as a finite resource like money in a bank account. Most people spend their energy on junk, worrying about what others think, getting angry about traffic, being frustrated by things they can't change. A Stoic practitioner is different. They become a strategic investor. They perform a ruthless triage of their mental energy. They invest 100% of it in what they can control, their actions, their thoughts, their attitude, and 0% in what they cannot. This isn't apathy. This is elite-level strategic focus. So how do we turn this profound philosophy into concrete action? This is where we move from mindset to tools. Here are 3 practical tools invented by ancient philosophers and refined by modern-day billionaires for daily use. Tool number 1, the premeditation of evils, or premeditatio malorum. It sounds negative, but it's actually a form of stress vaccine. Every morning, spend 5 minutes writing down the worst things that could happen in your day. The meeting could fail. A key client could say no. You could be criticized. But don't stop there. Then, write down how you would deal with it if it actually happened. For example, when preparing for a big presentation, instead of just hoping it goes well, imagine, what if the projector breaks? I'll use the whiteboard and make it a more intimate talk. What if an audience member asks a question I don't know? I'll honestly say that's a great question, and I need to look into it. This exercise turns vague fear into a concrete action plan. It disarms the weapon of surprise, which is stress's greatest ally. Tool number 2, the view from above. When a problem feels too big, too overwhelming, like the end of the world, perform this mental exercise. Close your eyes. Imagine you are floating upwards out of your body. Look down at your room, then your building. Float higher. See your city, then your country as a small patch on a map. Keep going. See the earth as a pale blue dot suspended in infinite space. From that cosmic perspective, how small is your problem? That email, that argument, that mistake? This exercise isn't meant to invalidate your pain. It's meant to put it in its proper context, to help you realize that this is not the end, and that life is vast and continues on. And tool number 3, perhaps the most powerful habit-forming tool, the Stoic evening journal. This isn't a place to vent about your bad day. This is an objective performance review with yourself. Before bed, answer 3 questions posed by Epictetus. What did I do wrong today? What did I do right? What duty did I leave undone? This is not self-flagellation. It's a cool, logical analysis. It helps you learn from your mistakes, acknowledge your small wins, and turn every day, good or bad, into a lesson to be wiser tomorrow. This is how you create relentless incremental progress, a positive feedback loop to replace the loop of anxiety. Premeditatio malorum, the view from above, the Stoic journal. On the surface, these sound like powerful tools, and they are. You start applying them, and for the first few days, you feel like you've been given a superpower. You feel calmer, more in control. It's the honeymoon phase with philosophy. And then, reality punches you in the face. A bad day at the office, a stupid argument, a criticism that cuts you to the core. And in that moment, all the high-minded theory evaporates. You forget Epictetus. You forget the dichotomy of control. You react with anger, with anxiety, with the old ingrained habits of your past. And immediately after, a feeling worse than stress washes over you. Guilt. Do you ever feel like a fraud? You read the philosophy, you nod along, but then you fail to live up to what you believe. A voice in your head whispers, "See, I'm just all talk. I don't have what it takes to practice this." If you have ever felt that way, then congratulations. You are having the exact same experience as the greatest Stoic philosophers. We have this false image of men like Seneca or Marcus Aurelius as marble statues, born immune to emotion. The truth is the complete opposite. They are living proof that practicing Stoicism is a relentless, lifelong struggle. Look at Seneca. He wasn't a hermit on a mountaintop. He was one of the wealthiest and most powerful men in Rome, a political operator with a target on his back. He was constantly accused of being a hypocrite, a man who taught simplicity while living in luxury. His writings weren't delivered from a place of lofty perfection. They were his own private reminders, his own notes from his internal war to live by his philosophy in a world of temptation and chaos. Or look at Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. That wasn't a perfectly edited textbook. It was a gritty, messy battlefield journal. He wasn't writing "be calm." He was writing to himself. Marcus, remember to be calm. He was self-coaching, pulling himself back from the brink of anger and despair over and over again. They weren't offering perfect software. They were offering a debugging process. Stoicism isn't an app you install once. It's an operating system for the mind. And like any OS, it will have bugs. It will crash. Every time you fail, every time you react out of habit, it's not a system failure. It's just a bug that you've discovered. And your job isn't to never have bugs. Your job is to get good at finding them and fixing them. The evening journal isn't for self-pity. It's your daily bug report. The premeditation of evils isn't pessimism. It's how you stress test your system to find its vulnerabilities. So, change your metric for success. Success isn't never feeling stress or anger. Success is the gap between when you lose control and when you realize you've lost control gets shorter and shorter. Today it might be an hour, tomorrow 30 minutes. A year from now it might be just 30 seconds. The challenge isn't to never fall. The challenge is to become a master at getting back up. So we've reached the end of our journey. But in reality, this is where it begins. We no longer see stress as a consuming fire, but as the fire of a forge. An energy that can be used to hammer out a sharper, tougher version of ourselves. We've learned to shift from being a passive recipient of life's blows to being the blacksmith who actively uses those blows to shape our own minds. And remember, these weren't theories written in quiet libraries. Stoicism was forged in the harshest conditions history has ever known. When Marcus Aurelius wrote his journal, he wasn't in a palace. He was in a cold tent on the front lines, leading armies against barbarian invasions, while back in Rome, a devastating plague, the Antonine Plague, was killing millions, including his own wife and children. When Seneca wrote about facing adversity, he was living in bitter exile, stripped of everything by an emperor. He would later be forced to take his own life by his former student, the tyrant Nero. They weren't teaching us how to feel better. They were teaching us how to endure, how to maintain our dignity and clarity when the world around us is collapsing. These tools aren't theories, they are weapons forged in fire. And now those weapons are in your hands. Knowledge without action is just a burden. So, I want to invite you to join an experiment, not a challenge. For the next 7 days, pick one of the 3 tools we discussed. Just one. And make it a part of your day. Not to be perfect, but to be an observer. To gather data on your own mind. And I truly want to know the results of your experiment. Leave a comment, not just a reply. Treat it as the first entry in your own practice journal. Share. Which tool will you choose as your weapon? And what dragon in your life will you face with it this week? Your courage to share will be a fire for others in this community. Because the greatest fortress you will ever build is the one between your own 2 ears. Thank you for joining Stoic Source.